Back on Mastering Dungeons, an excellent podcast done by my friends Sean Merwin and Teos Abadia, they talked with Graham Ward. I think it was Teos was talking with Graham Ward. And there was this question of what it means for Wizards of the Coast to be good stewards of the hobby or not. And Graham turned that topic around and instead said, what do we need to be good stewards? Now, they've said specifically being good stewards of D&D, but I'm going to expand that out to what does it mean to be a good steward for TTRPGs? And I think that's a really fascinating topic. I thought that their conversation on the show, which I've linked in the show notes, is a really outstanding topic. But it got me really thinking about it. It got me talking about it on the Sly Flourish Discord server. And I think it's a really interesting topic of like what it means for us to be good stewards. Now, one big question is, do you need to be a good steward? Is it your responsibility? Probably not. Like, you can just enjoy the game. You don't have to be the one evangelizing the game to everybody else. You don't have to be the one like expanding it to the world. But I think a lot of us feel that way, right? A lot of us who really love this game want other people to really love this game too. And so we can kind of take that charge. We can say, yeah, I want to be a good steward for the hobby. I want to help people bring them in. I certainly have taken this on board. I certainly want to help people of all types run great games. That is the core mission of Sly Flourish, is help GMs run great games. That's the one thing I want to do more than anything else, is help GMs run great games. But what does that like specifically mean, and how do we go about that? So I've been working on an article for Sly Flourish. I wanted to talk about it here, get the ideas out here, and I'm going to publish it on Sly Flourish as well, but I wanted to kind of pick that up. And I think there's really one main thing that we can do to be good stewards of the hobby. The one thing that I think we don't always do, that I think really matters, and that is embracing the diversity of the hobby and revealing the diversity of the hobby. And that diversity is in lots of different ways. It is certainly in the people who play it, the range of different people who play it, the people who it reaches out to who get to express themselves in this game of all different walks of life, all different kinds of people, and how it gives them this comfortable place to be with their friends, to enjoy creative fiction and a few laughs and a few good times around the table. It is that is hugely important. But it's not just the diversity of the people, it's also the diversity of the games that we play, the range of the games that we play. Again, everything. I like to bring up lasers and feelings because it's like a one-page RPG where you roll one die and you have one skill, lasers and feelings, and or two skills, and your number goes between the two. Right? That we can play so many different kinds of games. And it's wonderful to see the wide range of games that we can play. Everything from like big budget games like D&D and IP focused games like Aliens and Blade Runner, and all range of different fantasy RPGs, and just this huge plethora. And so one thing that often gets in the way of people being good stewards is gatekeeping in a couple different ways. Both gatekeeping in who we allow into the hobby. You're not a real gamer, or your game, that's not real RPG, or you're playing that game wrong, or you're not hanging on to the core principles of the way the game was meant to be. And a lot of times it's, and I don't like you, and I don't want you to be playing the game that I enjoy. But the other one is like, oh yeah, that this is the best game. That game is terrible, and this game is good. I see it constantly all over the web of like every time anybody wants to talk about an RPG, people have to go on there and talk about why that RPG sucks and they should instead be playing RPG Y. I'm not going to name them, but you can imagine there are two at the top that are always arguing about one another. So let go of that, right? I've talked about this before. There is no right answer in this hobby. There is no one way to do things. There is no perfect RPG. Instead, there are many right answers, and we each get to decide what the right answer is for us. And I think the more wide open we consider that, the more we recognize that other people can love games that we don't, the better off we are, and the better we are being good stewards of the hobby. So I think number one is embracing the diversity of the hobby, recognizing it, and recognizing that the experiences that new people have are just as valid and just as important to the hobby as old-timer experience. The fact that I've been playing for decades doesn't matter compared to the people who have only been playing a few months. Their experiences are just as valid, and in many cases, the experiences that they have are unique to me. I have not heard those before. I have not seen those before. I can learn as much from people who are just starting off with this hobby as they can learn from me having played it for decades. That doesn't matter. We are not on different planes. We're not in different tiers. My longevity does not matter to helping people run great games. I think that hanging on to that diversity, hanging on to that, just all the different people and how they got into it and why they got into it, that really matters. So being a little bit more specific about ways that we can be good stewards of the hobby. One is obviously welcoming new members. right? Show them how awesome the game is. Show them that it's important. Talk about the idea of like the real joy of this game is being able to get together with your friends regularly, whether you're all adults and professionals and have other aspects of your life, and be able to share in these tales of high fantasy, these tales of high adventure, and laugh and have a good time. And do so in a cooperative manner, right? We're not competing with anybody. We're not beating them at cards. We are all sharing in an awesome story. Focus on that and focus on showing them that stuff. Get to the fun fast. Do whatever you can to break down the barriers so that when you're actually running the game or teaching the game, you get them into the game as fast as you can. That might be picking a simpler system so that you can just get them started, but it could also mean like grab the starter set and run. Teach what people want to learn. A lot of times people have come in from a particular angle. That angle might not have been the angle that you came into the hobby, but they want to learn a thing. So don't immediately try to convince them that the thing they wanted to learn is wrong, and instead teach them the thing they want to learn. A lot of people are going to want to come in and learn D&D. So don't immediately say, oh, D&D is terrible. You should instead play this thing, right? Just show them D&D. Let them enjoy. Don't steer them away from the thing that brought them into the hobby in the first place. Show them the breadth of the hobby. It is totally cool to talk about other games, talk about other systems, talk about other publishers. Show them how wide it is. Show them how much stuff they can get. Expose them to the massive amounts of other publishers that are publishing stuff, because that's what makes this hobby really strong. If they're bound into just D&D and they don't recognize all of that other stuff, they're dependent upon whatever Wizards of the Coast decides to do with D&D. But there's a lot of stuff out there that they can play. I have a friend who on his own started off by GMing D&D, and now he's playing Dragonbane. I've never even seen Dragonbane before. I've never actually played it. I think I heard about it, but then he was like, oh no, it's really cool. And it looks like a really cool RPG that I should check out. So I think that's great that he's like, yeah, we're going to try other RPGs. Fantastic. Focus on what matters. Show people how these games bring us together, have fun with each other, and have a good creative time with our friends. Always be focusing on that. And keep, as Roland Deschain from the Gunslinger series would say, eyes open, mouth shut, see much, say little. Learn from the people that you're talking to. When you're evangelizing, don't be the only one talking. Ask them about their experiences. Ask them about how they got in. Ask them about what they know about it. Ask them questions. Learn from them. Really recognize the fact that they are not total noobs and you're totally experienced. They have their whole life brought them to that moment. Learn about that life. Learn about what brought them there. Learn about how they got there. And don't immediately shut them down. There's a weird human reaction to try to dominate over their experiences, to try to, show them how much more experienced you are and try to tell them the right way to do things. Resist that. Listen to them and then show them what they can do. What are things we can avoid? Gatekeeping. Don't gatekeep the hobby. Don't tell them that the way they're trying to enjoy the hobby is wrong. Don't tell them that, the way they got into the hobby is wrong. Oh, great, you're one of those Critical Role people. Oh, you don't have any idea what these RPGs are like. That's terrible, right? If somebody is like, look, my game night is watching Dimension 20, and then on weekends I play Good Society with my friends, the Jane Austen RPG. That's not the wrong way to play the hobby. That is a totally good and valid way to play the hobby. It is as valid as your way. Any way that somebody is playing their RPG is as valid as your way is, right? You don't have some special hold on the hobby that other people don't have. Everybody gets to enjoy this hobby however you want. So don't gatekeep. Don't bash other games. Don't constantly go and tear other games down. I really feel like I've made this statement before. I don't think there are bad games that we've heard of. So I really think that any game that we have heard about means somebody loves it. Right? The only games that really, truly suck are the ones that nobody has ever paid any attention to. Even the owners of the games aren't doing anything with it. If we have heard about the game, it's likely a good game to somebody. Now, I'm also not talking about games that are actively destructive to people. Games that are really have decided to go in a bad way. There are some that I would refer to as a bad game, just from the ideology that they decide to promote. But again, we get to decide that on our own. But from like a mechanic standpoint, from an understanding of the game standpoint, if we've heard about it, somebody loves it. And that means it's probably a valid game. Avoid the alienating jargon. We're all terrible about this. I use alienating jargon, but just remember, people don't understand these acronyms. They don't understand the games. They don't understand version numbers. They don't understand this stuff. Nobody knows what that OGL, the OGL SRD means. OGL SRD 1 point whatever. Nobody knows, right? So try to avoid the jargon. Try to focus on what it's like to learn about this game, never having learned it from before. Catch yourself on the acronyms. Don't use it to alienate people by using your fancy language. Don't brag. Don't talk about how long you've been playing RPGs. Hold it back. I know you want to talk about how long it's been. Don't. Listen. Listen to them first. Don't tell them about your experience with the game. Hear about their experience with the game and support them in what they want to do with it. Don't promote a single right way. Remember that they get to enjoy the game. They want to enjoy it the same way that you do it. And all of this comes down to like having an open mind with it, right? That RPGs is this awesome hobby. We all love it. I love it. And I think you wouldn't be sitting around here listening to all this if you didn't love it too. And there's so much that we can learn from other people. There's so much that we can learn from other systems. Keeping our mind open, letting all that material in here, learning from everybody, I think is a really big part of being a good steward. Learn as much from the people that you're talking to as you try to teach them about how awesome this hobby is. Every month on the Sly Flourish Patreon, I post a monthly Q&A. This is an opportunity for patrons of Sly Flourish to be able to ask me any TTRPG related question. I go through all the questions that I get every Friday and answer them. I get my coffee, I sit there, I enjoy a nice time answering these questions. Some of them make their way onto the show here. Other ones become the catalyst for other articles or videos that I do in the future. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you like it and you want more stuff like this from me, the best thing you can do is subscribe to the Sly Flourish newsletter. It is absolutely free to sign up. You can find a link in the show notes. You get a weekly RPG-related email sent directly to your inbox, and you get a free adventure generator PDF. You can also support me directly on Patreon. Patrons get access to all that stuff I was talking about. They also help me put on the show. Thank you so much to patrons. And you pick up my books at the Sly Flourish bookstore. Link for that is also in the show notes, including Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master, the Lazy DM's Workbook, Lazy DM's Companion, Forge of Foes, the Fantastic Adventure books, and a lot more. Please check that out. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and get out there and play an RPG.